Welcome to this week's sales tip. I'd like you to think about a recent conversation you've had with a prospect where they brought up a difficult objection that you had to handle. Was it about price, timelines, or one of 100 different areas where prospects can bring up sales objections? This tip is for those of you who feel like maybe you don't always handle those conversations as well as you would like to. I'm going to share with you 3 steps that you can implement to help address that. The first one is about preparation. You already know what are the most common sales objections that you encounter. Let's use pre-call planning prior to phone calls, prior to meetings, to figure out the 3 or 4 objections most likely to come up and how you would like to address those. The second step is don't wait for the prospect to bring up the objections, you bring them up instead. Now, before you think I've lost my marbles, let's play this out. The alternative is that we continue the sales conversation, hoping and praying that the prospect won't bring up those objections. And then right at the end, when they do bring them up, we get sideswiped, everything gets thrown off kilter. So instead, seize the bull by the horns, be the one to bring up the objections early in the conversation, have an honest discussion around those, and then both parties can figure out, are these deal breakers or not? The third step is don't be defensive, ask questions. It's really tempting when somebody brings up a difficult question that we want to become defensive and answer the question. But instead, let's ask some questions. Let's understand, what's the objection? Is that the real objection, or actually is that a smokescreen for something else? How significant is the objection? And what would it take to overcome that? Then armed with that information, we can then figure out what's the best way to handle that situation. The other thing I'd like to share with you before we finish today is, regardless of your political views, the reality is we are in a tougher selling environment because of changes within the economy. If you're the kind of person who wants to proactively figure out best practice approaches to dealing with that situation, why not join me on my upcoming webinar? Click on the link below for more details.